Hello guys, JP Mitchell here back today for another video. So I want to explain my journey to recovery from autism, excuse me, and what symptoms I had that my diagnosis was based off of. So let's do this. So when I was I want to say about 3 to 4 years old, in the very beginning, this is where my symptoms came into play. Now my symptoms were repetitive behavior. Let's see what else. Wait, no, my first symptom was um, unusual attachment to objects. So I would, if I saw a stroller or anything else, I would sit in it. I would get out of that stroller and I would have repetitive behavior, which is biting, kicking, punching, hitting, punching other kids. I had no social skills, which means I had no language, no communication, no kids play. I didn't know how to talk back to a child or how to play with them. Now, what I mean by talk back means that I couldn't say a word back, like, 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 how are you doing, this and that, right? So that's when my symptoms started to come into play. Now, in the beginning, it was all therapy, right? It was all ABA therapy, and it was faith-based therapy, which included all my ABA stuff, all the therapy in the beginning, that's the before footage and all that stuff. So if you look at me then, in the before footage when I was autistic, so that was the before footage. Now we go into a lot of the after footage. So a lot of those behaviors, all those symptoms were all cleaned up in 2016 because in order for me to graduate from high school, from Edward Milne Community School, aka AMCS, I had to clean up my symptoms, my details, in order to lose my diagnosis. Because for those of you who don't know out there, your child's diagnosis is based on the symptoms. So when the symptoms are there, the diagnosis was there for me. When the symptoms were not there, the diagnosis was not there. So when all my symptoms, like my repetitive behaviors, my sensory processing, where if someone's saying happy birthday to me, I would just put my hands over my ears and I would scream, I would freak out. But once I was 18 years old, that's when you no longer saw those repetitive behaviors or me screaming or freaking out. Whenever people would applaud me or sing me happy birthday, my jaw would just drop and I would just be happy. I would just be smiling. I would just be like, "Aw, thanks, guys." So if I ever, bumped into someone or punched someone, I would say, "Hey, look, I'm sorry if I punched you. I'm sorry if I talked to you like that." So it was about me learning and teaching myself how to apologize to somebody if I hurt them or if I did something wrong or this and that. So I really like the before footage but of course, I kind of didn't really like the before footage because I was autistic, I was lost in my own world, but the before footage was very critical to me because it's basically my character learning how to share, because that's something that Sokla taught me, was that because as an autistic child, I didn't like to share. I also would go and punch a kid in the face. So I was kind of a little, I guess what you would call a little violent autistic child or kid at the time, but I just didn't know, I just couldn't, walk back to that kid and say, "Hey, I'm sorry if I hit you." I couldn't do any of that because an autistic individual would not know what that is. But a recovered individual from autism would. So for my character, once I was fully recovered from autism and I finished high school EMCS, aka Edward Milne Community School. I went off to prom and all that stuff. And if you look at me today, like, you couldn't even look at me as autistic. Like, not one person in that audience from my graduation even looked at me or saw me as autistic. And the reason for that was because all of my details and all my symptoms were cleaned up. In the same year, on the same day I finished high school, all my details and all my symptoms were cleaned up. And in one night alone, I stopped doing this, stopped doing that. I would stop hugging myself, and that all stopped in one night, and all my symptoms were cleaned up. That means that I was asymptomatic. It means that all my symptoms that my diagnosis was based on. And the miracle part was that when my symptoms were gone, when they faded away, so too did my diagnosis. So if I went to a doctor or a psychologist, they would not diagnose me as autistic anymore. So that was like, yeah, victory is mine. So it was a faith-based therapy that allowed me to not only emerge from autism, but to not have these symptoms there in the future. So by the time I hit age 20, that's when I felt more comfortable about talking about my story of how I emerged from autism, a lifelong condition affecting so many kids across the world and across the globe. So this is my suggestion to all you parents out there who do have kids with autism. Watch out for the symptoms first, like repetitive behavior, stimming, rocking back and forth, unusual attachment to objects, repetitive behaviors. All these symptoms is what your child's diagnosis is connected to. So focus on that. Work with your child through the therapy that you receive, like ABA or the Intensive Behavioral Intervention Program, because when you work with your child, when you do the pulling and then your child does the pushing, that's the huge miracle part. Because when you focus on the symptoms that your child's diagnosis is based on, then your child's symptoms will go away and then the diagnosis will go away. Because the longer you parents sit around and wait for a miracle to happen, the harder it's going to be for you. So get the therapy first, get the early diagnosis second, get a social worker, focus on the knowledge gap before it grows and before it increases over time. Focus on the symptoms of autism at home. And if you parents out there who are put on a long waiting list for you to receive therapy, what you can do is you can sign up with this program called the Sunrise Program, and this program is called the Startup Training Course. So you parents just have to go on YouTube, look that up, and then you will see how these parents walk their child through, because that's how Sunrise looks at autism as an ability or a way to connect or want to connect with other people. So in Edward Milne Community School, I was not only speaking, but I was socializing, which means I was interacting with other students. I was schmoozing with the ladies, schmoozing with the girls. And I was able to trying to ask girls out on dates and stuff like that, so that was good and all. And I was talking with much younger kids. I had this one conversation with this younger student, and him and I just talked about, who's your favorite GTA 5 character? And what's amazing about this is that I looked him in the eyes. I gave him full eye contact, and I did not turn away. I did not look away and all that stuff. So that was good and all. And that's how my journey from being autistic to recovery comes to a close. Is that in order for me to finish high school, for me to finish EMCS, aka Edward Milne Community School, I had to clean up my symptoms and my details, because if I was going to get my diploma, I couldn't just walk. I didn't want to walk up there and have them looking at me hugging myself, because then people would look at me as still being a little like autistic. So my early diagnosis set the stage for a miracle. And I only got the diagnosis of autism once. I only got autism once. I only had the symptoms once. So if I was going to clean all that up, I was going to have to make it a good autism recovery cleanup. And that's exactly what I did. I cleaned up my details all by myself without any help. I took the tools from the therapist with all the therapy I got, and I pushed myself out of my autistic world back into my parents' world, where I was okay, where I had friends, I had family, I had people to talk to. I would socialize. I would not stim. I would not run back and forth anymore. I would no longer have the repetitive behaviors there anymore. I no longer had all these symptoms that my diagnosis was based on, because all of them were all gone. They were all cleaned up. So now I'm able to order at Subway. I sit in Subway by myself. I'm able to buy my own groceries, buy my own ice cream, because Sokla taught me how to walk across the sidewalk, aka Civic Options for Association for Community Living, taught me how to walk across the sidewalk, taught me how to buy my own ice cream, taught me how to buy my own food, because Mitch, obviously my father, my best friend, is decided that he was going to take me to try and teach me, but Sokla said, no, we'll take your son. And they said that, well, because we have to teach JP how to order his own food, how to buy his own groceries. If we don't teach him before he makes a full recovery, then he won't learn. He won't know what he wants to buy and what he wants to order at Subway or at McDonald's or at Burger King, or where to buy his own food from. So we have to teach him before he makes a full recovery. So that's exactly what happened, guys. And if you look at me today, I will come up and have a conversation with you. I will talk to you. I will socially interact with you. I will play with other kids. I will look them in the eye whenever I'm talking to them. I will do this. I will do that. So many of these things that I could have never have done when I was autistic. Yes, I played soccer. Yes, I played football. Yes, I played basketball, but I just wouldn't catch the basketball. I wouldn't be able to kick the soccer ball because I would watch my teammates do it and all that stuff. I wouldn't even catch the football. I would just let it fall out in front of me. So for all you parents out there who need information, who want to ask me any questions, just go to my Gmail at jpmitchellautismrecovery.com. Go to my YouTube account at John Patrick and just look at some of my videos and just see what you think of them. And you can even subscribe to my YouTube account if you want, if you like. And leave me a message, leave me an email on my Gmail account, and I will get back to you. I will look it up. I will look at the comment. I will read it through. So that's pretty much it, guys. So without further ado, let's do this, guys. Let's get it on. Let's do it.